Thank you, Jennifer. Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody joining us today for this third of a four-series National Tribal Climate Summit. And we're really pleased that you could all join us, and we welcome everybody from throughout Indian country, both in the United States and Canada. As is typical amongst our many events, gatherings, and meetings, we always begin with a prayer to open up our session. And because we have our young leaders here with us today, and many of you who are joining us, we're honored to have a young leader from the citizen of the United Homan Nation in Southeast Louisiana. Her name is Rachel Billiot. She's a graduate from the University of New Orleans, the Bachelor in Interdisciplinary Studies and Cultural and Environmental Studies. During internships with the South Central Climate Adaptation Science Center and Haskell Environmental Research Studies Institute. Her research involved work with traditional ecological knowledge, health, and environmental conservation. She remains committed to building positive relationships between land, water, people, and wildlife. And so we're so honored that she could join us here today. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Hello and welcome, everyone. In this moment, I thank all of you for attending and thank Creator for this beautiful world we all have a part in protecting. Even during these times where we are separated for the health of our communities, each of us is connected through the mosaic of ecosystems that make up our homelands, threaded together by veins of water. Each of us has a climate story, whether you're from the wetlands, coast, rainforest, plains, tundras, or mountains. Where I'm from in Southeast Louisiana, our wetlands are sacred protectors and providers. But with colonization, a lack of respect for the estuary led to the large-scale removal of our old-growth forest and levying of our rivers for agricultural and industrial development, disrupting the balance and leading to the coastal land loss crisis we now face. There are days where I intensely remember that I will never have the chance to know the same environment my ancestors knew, never roam my Piero among or walk beneath the thousands of years old giant cypresses, never harvest medicines or climb on the draping branches of extensive live oak forest. Their ghosts, though, encourage me to connect to the traditions and lifeways of my culture. Their descendants are my relatives, both of us affected by the ongoing traumas and changes of the generations. I hope to continue to grow alongside them and watch as they become the giants of the future. We begin to learn the meaning of life as we plant the seeds for the future, continuing to empower and provide the next generations with that chance. We are among the youngest of creation. Our survival as a people is tied to the connections with the land, water, plants, and wildlife. They are our first teachers, and it is vital that we learn how to adapt and create spaces for them within our lives as our ancestors did. Whether it's through traditional ecological knowledge, applied research, community initiatives, first-line defense of our sacred places, participating in our traditions, or inviting native plants and animals back home to our own yards and gardens. Each of us is needed in this time of climate change to provide the creatures, people, and places we love. Dear Native youth, this is my message to you. May Creator provide you with the courage and inspiration you need. May you find comfort and strength in our homelands and in one another, and may you walk forward on your journey with confidence and hope for the future you are helping to create. Yakoki, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for those inspiring words and that beautiful prayer. As you say, the importance of the work that we have going forward is critical, and we're so honored that we could have so many youth gathering with us today, and really inspires us to move forward and know that our future is bright. I'd like to first, next slide, if we could, talk about our summit that we've had here over the last few months. Of course, in October, we started with our climate change policy. It was really focused in on the House Climate Action Plan, and now we're moving forward with Congress and members of the administration to implement that plan. We had President Fawn Sharp from NCAI and Oregon Representative Suzanne Bonamici, who was on the House Committee. Our second session was in January, and it was really promoting tribal resiliency. We're very honored to have Secretary of Interior Deb Haaland, one of the first Native and women head of the Interior, so we're very honored that she could join us. But most importantly today, we're here to empower Indigenous youth leadership in the climate movement. And so we're honored that you could all be here. We're hoping that our next session will be in May and June, and we'll really focus on traditional knowledge. And last, we're hoping to have an in-person session in the winter of 2021. Next slide, please. Really the purpose of this session, and this is a picture of some of my youth from the Umatilla Indian Reservation, but really to discuss the important role of Indigenous youth that they can play in the climate movement. Many people are already doing that now. Our young leaders are doing that. Find pathways for them to become agents of change. And many are already doing that, but we want many more to join. And you'll see over the next couple hours those types of opportunities. We'll learn about those types of approaches, both at the local, tribal, and international scales. We're really excited. We've got a great number of keynote speakers and panels that will talk about that, but really to inspire, empower, and inform. Because as we say many times, youth are our future, and we're relying on them to help us going forward. Next slide. We've been fortunate to have a great team supporting this event. I want to do a shout out for many of our core team members who are here, but these are the many different tribal and intertribal organizations that help us put this together, including funding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so we're pleased that we have some folks from the Bureau that will be participating as some of the panelists. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of background about who is with us today. We have over 270 registered folks. We've got elders and youth, policymakers, tribal council, program managers, students, volunteers. About 60% of those registered are from tribal organizations, 12% from federal agencies. Universities are represented here, including Haskell. We're very so pleased that Daniel Wildcat and others can join us. And then conservation groups. We also have state agencies, private businesses, and local governments. Next slide. One of the things that we ask folks to do is share their big ideas for empowering youth in the climate movement. And these are some of the ideas that came forward. This is a word cloud, and you can see the importance of youth, Indigenous action, training, and engagement. And so today, over the course of the panel and the presenters, we're going to be talking about some of this very important way of empowering and engaging our youth going forward. Next slide, please. We're very pleased and honored that we could have two exceptional keynote speakers today. Daniel Wildcat, who is an elder, a UT member of the Muskogee Nation of Oklahoma, Haskell Indian Nations University, and Peter Yodene Ladeneno Tayas, who's a youth spokesperson. Both of them are here today. First, we'll begin with Daniel Wildcat. He's a professor at the Haskell Indian Nations University in Lawrence, Kansas. My son went to school there, Daniel, and we have other folks on the session that are from Haskell, and we're very pleased that our alumni here, but particularly that you're an accomplished scholar. You write on Indigenous knowledge, technology, environment. You're the director of the Haskell Environmental Research Studies Center, and he founded with colleagues from the Center for Hazardous Substance Research at Kansas State University. Dan helped design a 4-part video series entitled All Things Are Connected, The Circle of Life, 1997, which dealt with the land, air, water, biological, and policy issues facing Native nations. A UT member of the Muskogee Nation, Dan recently formed the American Indian and Alaska Native Climate Change Working Group, a tribal college-centered network of individuals and organizations working on climate change issues. And we are fortunate to have them as part of one of our affiliate tribes in Northwest Indians tribal climate change camps. So Daniel, we're very honored you could join us again. And I want to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for being here. Daniel Wildcat.
Yeah, Sunlay, Gadasawa. Thank you for those nice words, Don. Agela Song, Selagi, Zoyaha, Uchiha, Muskogee. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. My name is Daniel Wildcat. I'm a UT member of the Muskogee Nation, as Don mentioned, and delighted to be here with you today. There's so much to talk about, so let's try to hit the high points. I'll try to do that. I don't think I'm going to say anything a lot of you don't already know, but sometimes it's good to have others sort of reinforce that knowledge that we hold dear. And I think the first thing when we talk about youth empowerment is that we're all very aware of, we talk about the precious nature of our youth all the time. We talk about our responsibility to them and passing on tribal knowledges, wisdom, and understanding. And I think that goes without saying. I do think right now we're at a particular moment, particularly after the events of the last year, COVID, the issues of systemic injustice being raised. I do think opportunity now to really empower our youth, do everything we can in our roles as tribal leaders, educators, social workers, business leaders, to create those opportunities so the young people can lead now. We have a responsibility to them and those future 7 generations we often talk about. And so I'm feeling fairly right now, I think with Deb Holland in the Department of Interior, this would be a great time for us to definitely push for very specific opportunities and funding that will empower our Indigenous young people to be leaders, the change that we need to see. Those who are familiar with my work know my arguments is this. If we're going to address the physical climate change that we have to address, we're going to need a cultural climate change. Indigenous people hold to that cultural climate change we need. We can't use the same old ideas and ways of thinking to address this incredible crisis that is upon our Mother Earth now. So I'm going to encourage everyone, let's think very creatively about creating those opportunities, those internships, those opportunities for students in areas of employment, opportunities for young people to really be on the ground and do the work that needs to be done as we prepare as best we can to deal with the change that we witness and we all see now. Again, I think there's a couple of things we have to be very mindful of. One is, it's important we talk to our young children about this, but it's also important that we do it in a very age-appropriate way. I think one of the tendencies we have sometimes is when people read the scientific reports, people can feel sort of powerless. They can they can feel defeated, fatalistic. Oh, what can we do? Look at what humankind has done to this Mother Earth. I think that we have to be honest, we have to be truthful, and we have to talk to our children in such a way, particularly those young children, that we need to start K through 12. We need to empower them too, but we've got to do so by giving them hope, giving them that there is something in the future to look forward to. And I think we do that by modeling as best we can how to behave responsibly, respectively, as common beings on this planet, even amongst ourselves. We're having a difficult time now with some of humankind, even how they treat members of our human family. When we make that next step to say, well, our families, our kinship circles include the plants, the animals, the land, the air, the water, then we're really advancing a very powerful way of thinking about the situation we're in. We need to do that. We need to be there to support, to encourage our young people. And let's do it so that we can let those young people know that we can do good work, that there are things that can be accomplished. And I think that's really critical. The way we do that is I hear some students, I just had a student this morning who told me, he said, well, what we always hear is, you have to wait your turn. I tell you what, folks, their turn is here. For young people, their turn is here. I think those of us that have been involved for a long time with our peoples and working on the ground and trying to improve the situations we face in our communities, I think it's time for us to be there as those counselors, as those advisors, and really opening the doors for those young people to step forward. I don't think they need to wait. I think it's their time, you know, to be engaged right now. And I've seen this time and time again with all the undergraduate research programs that we offer, and how these young people, they are hungry. They want to be a part of helping us restore this beautiful Mother Earth and the crisis that she is facing right now. So let's be there for our young people. Let's all together and very creatively think of how we can create those opportunities for our young people, whether it's schools, whether it's government agencies, whether it's intertribal organizations, whether it's NGOs, whether it's our own tribal organizations. Let's get to work, roll up our sleeves, and let's remind them that there's tremendous beauty in this world yet. Oh my goodness, we've seen such ugliness in the last year. But I think what we learned from what I've learned from those wise elders that have counseled me is you can see the ugliness. We don't turn our head from it. We don't act like it's not real. But you've got to maintain that ability to see the beauty in the world. And we are surrounded by tremendous beauty, as much as humankind has done. And most of the ugliness is human activity and behavior. I'm not going to blame the salmon. I'm not going to blame the raven. I'm not going to blame the bear for the kind of ugliness we've seen the last year. I think we've got a lot of work to do. Let's come together. Let's empower our youth. I think we can do that. And I look forward to hearing a lot of the discussion in this wonderful meeting. Sanlai Gadasawa, thank you very much for this opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Daniel. You lifted us up. We appreciate that. You know, as you mentioned, sometimes it's very difficult in these times to have that hope and that vision and see that beauty. But in fact, I think I see this seventh generation that is here now with us, and the ones that will follow, and that it really does inspire us. It gives us that hope. So thank you so much for your inspiration and the work that you have done. Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate that. And I would look forward to you listening and participating in the discussion that will follow. I'm very honored next to introduce Peter Yodenalade Daniel. Hopefully I said that right. And Peter, you can correct me. Peter Tyus. He is the Mohawk Wolf Clan from Akwesasne. He's currently a high school senior, and he'll attend Cornell University in the fall. Congratulations, Peter. He's a member of the Haudenosaunee Youth Delegation in the 2019 United Nations Climate Action Summit and spoke on the youth perspective on indigeneity at the Nature Conservancy. So we're very honored, Peter, you could join us here today from New York and your home territory in Akwesasne. Thanks so much. Go ahead, Peter. Thank you.
Sego Sewaguego, Yodanala Tadenyo Yongyats, Wagata Huni, Akwesaslono, Kanyankahaga, Hundanashoni, Dano Ongwahoe. My name is Peter Tai, Wolf Clan, and I'm an Akwesasne Mohawk. I would like to start with a little background about my community. Akwesasne is located in northern New York and both southern Ontario and Quebec. The international border between the United States and Canada runs through our community. And with that being said, people in Akwesasne live in either Canada or the United States, which can be really confusing. So for the means of this discussion, I'm going to talk about the American side of Akwesasne. The St. Lawrence River once an indigenous waterway and source of food, turned into a major shipping lane and source of hydroelectric energy. The St. Regis, Racket, Grass, and Salmon rivers flow through Akwesasne and into the St. Lawrence. 3 major industrial plants, General Motors powertrain plant, Alcoa, and Reynolds Metals, contribute to the pollution of the land, river, and air surrounding Akwesasne. These industrial plants changed our land as well as our way of life. For instance, as a river community, we once relied on fish as an integral part of our diet, and since the mid-1980s, we've had to limit our fish consumption due to PCB and other contaminants found in our aquatic life. Traces of PCB have been found in turtles, frogs, muskrats, and all fish species. On our reservation, people noticed that cows began to lose their teeth and soon realized that this was due to the fluoride in the groundwater. And to recover from this industrial pollution, the United States government awarded a $20 million settlement to be used for cultural and ecological restoration of our lands back in 2013. Since then, numerous community projects have begun to move forward, such as efforts to clean and dredge the rivers, restore mussels and sturgeon populations, and develop a community farming project. A key part of the cultural restoration at Akwesasne has been youth involvement. My favorite part of Akwesasne is the roadside cleanup. All members of the community join in the spring, grab their garbage bags, and clean up the roads. I enjoyed being able to see the garbage bags collected and all the roadsides that were cleaned. However, in recent years, it became more of a joyous event with whole families coming out. Elders had patches of the road they cleared, but now it makes me sad to see that, however, in recent years, we are picking up more and more garbage. It seems that my community should be finding less garbage. And for this reason, I think it's important that climate and education and environmental education are vital to producing change within my community. Youth need to learn to be involved at an early age, and you are never too young to be a steward. In addition to the roadside cleanup, kids can get summer jobs with the environment. They can do things like clean the ditches and shorelines. The goal is to get water moving through the community and not be clogged by weed overgrowth. It's also a chance to monitor the health of the land and check for animal tracks and possible invasive species. One thing we are deeply concerned about is the emerald ash borer, an invasive bug that is killing black ash trees. Black ash trees provide the splints that we use to make our baskets. So if the trees die, we will lose our ability to make baskets. Indigenous youth across the world can and should play large roles in broader efforts of the climate movement. I want to talk about decolonizing the land and what it means to me. We still exist in a colonized land here in North, South, and Central America. Personally, I believe that to decolonize the land is to return to its original state as slowly and as carefully, as closely and as carefully as we can. The land has been colonized to such a high degree. North America used to be covered in forests, but they are now gone and replaced with towns, villages, cities, and roads. Dams have changed the course of rivers and flooded land masses. Swamps have been filled in and animals displaced. Animals have lost territorial areas, which leads to a fight for survival and ultimately extinction. Youth should be involved at the forefront of this movement. Prior to colonization, Indigenous peoples had a symbiotic relationship with the land. Society's movement towards urbanization and large-scale industrialization has resulted in a rapid disruption of ecosystems that will take decades to repair. You might be wondering how youth can make a difference and how you yourself can. Everyone can participate. You must find your own unique talent that everyone has. Every community needs every sort of person. There is no skill that is not needed in this fight against global warming. Perhaps your talent is art. You can make posters and graphic designs. Maybe your joy is found in writing. Vocalize the Indigenous platform through written word. If you're an athlete, use your platform to draw attention to climate activism and spark change within the athletic community. We need all youth to join and move together as one. My activism was shaped by my past experiences, such as the Native Earth Camp in 2019, sponsored by SUNY Environmental Sciences and Forestry. I camped with youth across the 6 nations of the Haudenosaunee. We spent time in the Adirondack Mountains, learning traditional ecological knowledge. This included medicine walks to identify medicinal plants and the right times to harvest and how to give thanks. We hiked the mountains to practice survival skills. Specifically, we learned how to start a fire and find our own meals in the wild. Upon hearing this, I thought of the concept of one dish, one spoon, in which we are told to only take what we need from Mother Earth with respect to natural resources. Through this camp, I was invited to attend the 2019 United Nations Youth Climate Action Summit in New York City as a member of the Haudenosaunee Youth Delegation. At the Climate Summit, I was appalled by the presentations of world indigenous leaders, detailing how climate change is rapidly affecting their communities. The indigenous people of Brazil are fighting to protect the rainforests, while indigenous people in the Pacific Northwest face low salmon supplies. I had spoke on a panel at the Nature Conservancy Climate Hub in New York City. And in December 2019, I was invited to the Intertribal Agricultural Annual Council Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, both as a youth essay winner and keynote speaker. Here, I was alarmed to discover the impact of drought on reservation farming and how erosion is affecting the wild rice fields in the Great Lakes region. The Native Earth Camp was a pivotal in my decision to focus my education on environmental issues. This camp helped me to see the link between the knowledge I learned from my grandparents, which is traditional ecological knowledge, and what I learned from books, which I refer to as academic knowledge. I was able to see that these two could coexist and even complement one another. I started to view a world where finding answers to ecological problems would require looking back at what I learned in the garden with my elders and looking forward to groundbreaking ideas. In closing, I would like to inspire youth to get involved locally. Get involved in tribal efforts. Learn about issues that affect your community and raise awareness. This can be as simple as talking to people about it. Talk to your elders and ask how your community has changed over the time. My grandfather used to write on the wooden beams of our basement. He'd write things he saw in the environment, such as first robin, February 13th, 1995, or 60 degrees, no snow, January 31st, 1988. We can all do things like this to keep track of our community. Get involved with teaching other people about these issues, and then think bigger. Attending this summit is a great first step. Meeting people from other communities to learn and share ideas. Utilize your role as a keeper of traditional ecological knowledge to bring your unique perspective to the fight for climate change mitigation. Do not underestimate the power of your knowledge in a colonized world. Thank you. Nyaukoa.
Thank you, Peter, for that amazing speech. Blown away, man. I'm so excited to hear your voice. And I think that's what a lot of young people are wanting to hear, that same voice that will lift them up and inspire them. And, it's amazing that all the work that you've done at such a young age. And I'm looking forward to seeing you as one of our rising stars across the Indian country. Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate it. We want to move on into our next panel, and we want to thank both Daniel Wildcat and Peter Tyus for their remarkable, inspiring speeches. If you have questions of them, please put those in the chat box. We'd love to follow up with them a little bit later on during our program.